The panel, there's also some filming going on, which is...
My name is Gail. Hello.
Okay. And we're going to go around also, introduce before we speak. So our speakers today are Hattie Nessel, who has been working full-time to shut down the Vernon nuclear power plant, it's Vermont Yankee, and all nuclear power in the United States for 10 years. Henry Rosenberg is to my left, a primary care physician in Northampton, Massachusetts, and he is a member of the Physicians for Social Responsibility. And to my right is Alice Slater, and she is the New York director of the Nuclear Age Peace Foundation and represents the organization at the United Nations. Alice will speak on the linkages, the inextricable linkages between nuclear power and nuclear weapons. Hattie will give an overview of nuclear power, sort of tutorial, as well as focus on the Vernon, Vermont Yankee plant. And Henry will speak on the health effects of exposure to radiation from nuclear power. So we have till, let's see, 6 till 7 o'clock, I believe, an hour.
Oh, really? So we should start?
Yes, so we need to start. Hattie has a 30-minute PowerPoint presentation, after which Henry will add to it, supplement it with the health effects of radiation exposure, and Alice will speak after that. Now, is 10 minutes okay for you, Henry?
It will have to be.
Okay. So before we start, we'll go around briefly who you are.
Because we don't have time.
Pitfalls and dangers of nuclear power. Making our way to a carbon-free, nuclear-free future, both of them, carbon-free and nuclear-free, that's essential. There are 104 nuclear power plants in the United States. The preponderance are on the east side of the United States. Every nuclear power plant routinely releases radiation 24/7. All radiation is harmful. There's no level beneath which it can be deemed safe, and it's cumulative in our bodies. These are the red dots are the earthquakes in the past 4 months. This was made 3/15/2011 after Fukushima, and the large red dots are the 15 highest magnitude earthquakes in U.S. history. So earthquakes are a big deal, danger. This is Vermont Yankee, sits right on the border of Massachusetts, 50 miles from Boston, which is the capital of Massachusetts, of course, and 100 miles from Montpelier. If there was a meltdown, Boston would have to be evacuated. There's no doubt about that. And it's also next to the water supply of Boston, which is in the Quabbin Reservoir. This is Vermont Yankee. The white part of the building there is the radioactive spent fuel pool, and we heard about how dangerous that was in Fukushima. That's what really caused the meltdowns. And in the background are the 2 banks of cooling towers, which are supposed to cool the water, and you see all the venting going up the clouds there. And that is because it is trying to reduce the thermally hot water that's going back into the Connecticut River. They take in 543 million gallons of water a day. Much of that goes up as vent or leaks, and a huge percent of it doesn't ever go back into the river. U.S. reactors generated about 65,000 metric tons of spent fuel by the end of 2010. This is according to Public Citizen. 75% is stored in spent fuel pools because there's no national repository on site at every reactor. No mines, no reactors, no dumps. This is the black aboriginal hand on the radioactive symbol. The 3/4 of uranium mining is on native and aboriginal lands, and it's very toxic, and it's contaminating them, giving them all kinds of cancers and birth defects and early deaths. Again, we want to respect the indigenous people who say, leave the uranium in the ground. That's what we have to know. This is a human rights issue. Nuclear power and nuclear weapons, and Alice will be speaking about that, but an average nuclear power plant equals about 1,000 times as much long-lived radioactivity as was released by the Hiroshima bomb. The amount of radioactive cesium, which is very dangerous to the soft tissue, the muscles, the heart, ejected by the Fukushima reactor meltdowns is 168 times higher than that emitted in the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. So this is really a weapon of mass destruction from the beginning to the end of its life cycle. This is where we began our activism at Vermont Yankee. These are two people in my affinity group that we are labeling Vermont Yankee a weapon of mass destruction. That's over their sign, Entergy. The Obama administration now, this is not quite current because they were offering $8.8 billion in loan guarantees, but now they've given them to 2 reactors to begin being built in Georgia. The Bush administration had allocated $18.5 billion, and the Obama administration has has promised $54.5 billion, 3 times what the Bush administration had done. And that's all taxpayer money. There's no private money going to nuclear power. The nuclear industry lobbying, you can see how it's gone up, and I don't have anything past 2008, but you see at the end how far it goes up because that's an election year. So right now you can imagine it's sky high, the lobbying for nuclear power, sky high. This was from Time magazine. This is Obama with a Joe Klein article saying we need solar, we need wind, but we cannot be and we need clean coal and we cannot be without nuclear to meet our carbon standards. So this is in the middle of Time magazine, and there was no refuting this opinion piece. This is us at Vermont Yankee, Stop Taxpayer Subsidies for Vermont Yankee. That's our affinity group, that's Vermont Yankee in the background. Every time we're on the driveway, we are arrested. This is the compensation from J. Wayne Leonard, $27.32 million. He's the CEO of Entergy, which owns 5 nuclear power plants. $27.32 million a year is his salary, and that's significant.
And you can't get a better haircut than that?
No nukes, no coal, no kidding. We have handouts here that everybody should please get before you leave. It's 3-color paper right there. And this is from nears.org. That's one of the websites I recommend. They're very good. And everybody should have a nuke watch too, by the way. No nukes, no coal, no kidding. We don't want to say no nukes and coal's okay, and we don't want to say coal, no coal and nukes are okay. We want to say no fossil and no nukes. This is the historic crossover. The source is NC Warren, North Carolina Warren. John Blackburn and Sam Cunningham did this. John Blackburn was the chancellor of Duke University and an economist, and he volunteered for NC Warren and created this chart. And it's part of a large study, but it shows where solar is going down in price and nuclear is going up in price. Those trends will continue. And in 2010, in the summer of 2010, there was a historic crossover where solar became cheaper than nuclear in real money, whether it's taxpayer or wherever it's coming from. And that's about a 50-some page report. And what they came up with was that North Carolina was very close to being 100%. It was like 94% they could go with renewables. That was the study. Solar is the solution. Solar panels sold equaled in 2010 17 nuclear power plants. And the cost of solar went in 3 years from $4.20 a watt to $1.20 in 3 years. So if anybody says solar is too expensive, in real money it's not. And so we went to Vermont Yankee with the Go Solar placards that we had. People talk about jobs. You know, when they really want to get us, they talk about jobs. Well, for $1 million, you get 4.2 jobs in nuclear, 13 in solar and wind, and then more in other renewable industries. So there's no argument to be made there. This is from a 1979 book, Health Issues. First, we have to convince the people that good health isn't everything. These things are really dangerous, and there is no safe nuclear power in terms of our bodies and the life on Earth, and we cannot live on a radioactive planet. So this is what ionizing radiation, which comes out of the nuclear power plant 24/7, does to our bodies, and iodine, and you hear all these numbers and all these tritium and cesium and strontium, and so they all go to different parts of our body. Somebody made that.
Oh.
Somebody drew it.
Can you get it?
From me you can get it. I have it on my computer.
Okay.
Yeah. This is from the John Goffman book, and the cows eat the grass where the rain has come down with strontium-90 in it, and the strontium-90 is then passed on in their milk. And I put a fish up there because the Vermont Yankee is emitting strontium-90 into the river, and the fish are being tested positive for strontium-90 in their bones and in their flesh. So I wanted to include the fish along with the cow. This is a cooling tower collapse at Vermont Yankee, and this shows the wood deteriorated to the extent that it collapsed, and tens of thousands of thermally hot water. It's not particularly radioactive water, but that's the kind of deferred maintenance that's going on there. So it collapsed in 2007, and it collapsed again in the next year because they defer maintenance, because it's never cost effective to them. This is another leak, so when they're talking about leaks at nuclear power plants, that's what it might look like. This is a fire at Vermont Yankee, which is a transformer fire. And all of these pictures, by the way, that I've just shown you were taken by whistleblowers. We have no idea who took these pictures because no reporters were allowed on site when this happened. These are radioactive tritium leaks. Every dot, every red dot there is a tritium leak. The permissible level, which doesn't mean safe, you have to distinguish between permissible and safe, doesn't mean safe. The permissible level, according to the federal government, and some states are lowering that, particularly California, is 20,000 picocuries per liter of water. These red dots were showing 2.5 million picocuries per liter. The NRC did nothing. They never said you have to stop working in order to find the leaks and fix the leaks. They didn't find them for negligence, nothing, and they just continued leaking. Because they're all under the reactor. They don't want to go under and find them. They've never inspected them, and they just happened to get caught by a whistleblower, again, telling us that there was a leak. So we went there on January 1st, 2011 with the sign, "No more leaks and lies, shut it down now." That's the Entergy sign in the background. The Senate up there in Vermont took it unto themselves to decide whether or not Vermont Yankee could be relicensed, and they voted 26-4. It's a phenomenal vote by a Senate against a 20-year license extension. Within 10 days of Fukushima, the NRC relicensed Vermont Yankee, overriding the Democratic vote of the legislature. This is Dr. Hermann Scheer. He's on the list there of recommended reading. He was in the German parliament for 30 years doing feed-in tariffs, getting an equal playing field for the new renewable industries like solar and wind. So he's a very important person to read. And he got the German country really very far advanced with renewable energies. So after Fukushima, in contrast to the United States, which the NRC not only relicensed Vermont Yankee, it relicensed 3. In Arizona, it has relicensed 72 out of 72 of the nuclear power reactors up to date, this time. In other words, they've never refused any nuclear power. They're relicensing for 20 years. And of course, Germany, Chancellor said, we're going to abandon nuclear power by 2022. This is May 30th, very shortly after Fukushima. They renounced nuclear power, and she immediately had shut down 8 of the oldest. And that is because of demonstrations. So there we are. 250,000 people demonstrate in Cologne, and that's March 26th. That's within, 2 weeks of Fukushima. They could get 250,000 people out there. So this is significant. This is really a significant grassroots movement.
Chernobyl on top of it.
Yeah.
That's true.
So they were moved.
That's true.
Yes.
They really know what nuclear power is about. Absolutely. Thank you. Siemens abandoned nuclear power. This was in the New York Times, September 18th. The chapter for us is closed, said the CEO. He emphasized the company's commitment to the rapidly growing renewable energy sector. This is a very good turn of events.